let's zoom in on this Invitational first before we take a look at the meta, because what you are spectating here tonight is the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme. The best of the best are here duking it out for the coveted crown of Runes and Rift undisputed champion.
Yeah, look, I know you alluded to this a little bit just like a few seconds ago, but there's a lot of players right now that I've seen, at least on the interwebs, that have been like, "This is the League of Draven for set two." Yeah, I
Canon
think it's
Draven.
one, way too early to tell, and two, I'm a firm believer that Annie is the better version of Draven. So, not very many Annie players here this weekend because I think a lot of
We
players are
will
excited about the new champions. But
inquisit you about that throughout the broadcast. For now, I think it is time to jump into our very own match in round 4, where Rek'Sai is facing off against the League of Draven. Let's see what they can put down. I think we're ready to head in, and I think is this the better iteration of Set? I mean, they are fishing in a similar pool now, aren't they? Here with Rek'Sai.
well, Rek'Sai is actually a different color pairing, right? Set's orange and yellow, whereas
Oh my god,
Rek'Sai is red and yellow. So,
I might be colorblind. I might be colorblind. The Fury to me is so orange, but that might just be my my nationalism bleeding through. I was like, orange. Urgh!
oh wow, okay, so this Rek'Sai player is on Seal of Rage. I mean, seals have become a lot more popular here with set two because there's just a lot more reasons to spend your power. And so because of this, these seals have gotten a lot better. Um, but surprisingly, this Noxus Hopeful is actually going to be the first card discarded here through the Zon Warrens. And two cards are going to be revealed off the top, but I don't think there's really anything that he wants to play. Actually does opt for this Cold Week here and just recycles 2 runes. Um, yeah, I mean, no units on board either. So how do you feel about this right here? I have no
I mean,
idea how
no
to feel about
units
this
on
right now.
board, but I think the start you're making with getting the gold and getting these seals out in play, the earlier you get these seals out, the more valuable they become. And squeaking in the little token here just on the end here does mean you do maintain pressure on these battlefields. Now, I think it's really, really interesting because I mean, I always feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, but the early game in a match of Riftbound, it really feels like certain decks really want to build up that economy. And those Seals of Rage are the way to do it. Drawing up those extra cards means you have a way to keep up with the benefits that Draven is supplying themselves. So I am cautiously optimistic. I mean, it's 2 against 0. It's in the bag, right? It's done. That's how it works, right?
I think so, actually. I'm pretty sure that's scientifically proven. Uh, but no,
Yeah.
no, seriously here. Uh, I mean, 2 more cards are going to get revealed off the top. He is able to get that Conquer. He's able to throw away this Void Rush, which I think is a pretty interesting choice here, considering he does have that Seal of Rage, so would have been able to potentially use it. But instead decides to go for this Piercing Light. Is going to shoot his recruit twice, and then just get rid of this Draven while he has that opportunity. So, I mean, not a
That's one way
bad
to do
place
it.
to be. Continues to deny his opponent the ability to combat here. So, yeah, I
But
mean,
what is it gaining him in the long term here, right? Because the Draven economy is up and running. I mean, the energy is there, the cards on hand are there. And meanwhile, as the Rek'Sai, you have a unit available, which you'll be happy to get done as we are blazing through the early turns. Now, just to remind everyone, winner of this match will move to the upper bracket final, where they have a chance to move onwards into the second phase of the tournament. And of course, we are playing double elimination, so the longer you can maintain your run in that upper bracket, the better you're feeling.
so
And now,
5 into 5 here. Oh no, Assault. Okay, so 6 into 5 here. Uh, is going to be able to win this combat. He knows that the Draven's tapped out, so there's no effects that could be done. He's not in the order domain, so he has no capability to use effects like Call to Glory that kind of circumvent that energy cost. And yeah, I mean, continues to grow this lead here. Is going to hide a card. We have to assume that it is a Hidden Blade. So now this Draven's going to very much struggle to try and find a way into this lane here. This Nox is hopeful, not enough to get over the board. So maybe finally a unit will go into this reverse row.
Yeah, it is, however, putting a lot of pressure on the resources available to Ganzi here, right? The energy pool is looking strained. Cards on the hand are being put under pressure. Now, the seal will definitely pick up some of the pressure, and if they are looking at some lovely, lovely hidden blades, maybe they can keep themselves in the game a little longer. But how long can they up this amount of pressure onto the Draven successfully? Because I feel like when the tides start to turn and Draven gets a finger in the door, it feels like he will just slam it open and not allow you to catch back up to speed unless you take a full 2 turns to kind of recover and find your footing once again. And then 2 point lead is not all that impressive or something to write home about.
Honestly, I actually tend to disagree with you slightly here. Look, it is, now just a 1 point lead, so there is that capability to find his way back. But with that Hidden Blade just sitting there as this, trap card, he doesn't have to conquer the other battlefields. He just needs to maintain the one that he has right now. And I think for the time being, that's just going to continue to happen. And because of a card like this Vengeance here coming down and removing that Vex before it really has an opportunity to, I guess, utilize its full effect. Look, this Rek'Sai is going back to base. This Noxus Hopeful is not going to last on this next turn as well. And this lead, I feel like, just continues to grow. And this Rek'Sai just doing that full Zug aggro, it's working.
It is working. The margins are slim though, and if he can thread the needle like this repeatedly, I would be floored by it. But I think with the turn that he set up for himself, even if he does come under pressure on the Zaan's Warren battlefield, his own battlefield, he can just dip out on his own unit, stock up on cards again, and don't be deceived. Because remember, because every time that the Rek'Sai does have that extra in to get extra cards on the board, right, when they are conquering. So do not let yourself be too deceived by cards on hand. Cards on hand is not the main thing a Rek'Sai deck is worried about. It's an indicator, but definitely not as influential as it is in, let's say, a Kai'Sa or in an any deck.
What a devastating play here. Look, this longsword is going to come down. The Vex is going to be potentially at 1 HP. We don't know if he decided to do the targets beforehand or after the fact. It looks like it is beforehand. So a Void Rush going to come down here. I think he's going to try and find himself yet another removal tool at his disposal, waiting to see if it does resolve. And it looks like that is going to be the case. Immortal Phoenix off the top here doesn't feel too bad either. But instead, it's going to be this Noxus Hopeful, just going to continue to strengthen up his backline here. And it doesn't feel too bad either, just because essentially it is that 2 cost right there. That Void Rush is going to be able to take advantage of it. But for now, this Rek'Sai doesn't quite have enough gas in the tank to just overtake both of them. I'm wondering if he's just willing to let them go here. So another longsword is going to get placed down. We'll have to see if it is going to go onto that Rek'Sai, and looks like that is going to be the case. So
That's risky though, with so much energy up.
I do believe that Noxus Hopeful actually does enter ready because of the Rek'Sai's effect.
In the
Friendly
reveal,
units from
or...
anywhere have accelerate. Oh no, you may pay. That's right. Okay, you have to pay for it.
Yeah, there you have it. But Trap Slade, and when the Queen of the Void herself is burrowing under your battlefield and emerges quite spectacularly with not only assaulting, crushing Mars, but also 2 swords in hand, like a ninja straight from hell. It is a daunting sight to be sure. However, do not underestimate what can be hidden in the shadows still. when Draven has 2 energy up.
Unfortunately, only 3 cards in hand, so just gonna go for this called shot right now. Only recycled one, so only gets to look at 2 cards. He kind. Oh no, I apologize. He has to recycle 2 though. You're not allowed to. Oh right, because Vex. Vex is so cool. Okay.
Aha. I mean, that is an extra little nudge that you're maybe looking for. But trading on it is not. I mean, you're not too happy about it, but all in all, a equal payout would favor the player that is in front and is still holding on to battlefields. So losing out on the Rek'Sai, you're not too happy about it. But the investment was no small investment from the Draven side, and I think what we are seeing in this game is very very important because the combat that you see transpire here is quite selective, right? We have not seen this Draven draw that many cards yet. And that is because the Rek'Sai is dictating the pace of this game, is dictating where we are fighting, yes or no. And even the combats that are more favorable for Draven are not allowing him to draw cards. And I think that is such a pillar in the strategy on how to fight against Draven, is not let yourself be goaded into picking these unfamiliar fights or leaving yourself exposed where you can be punished by Draven.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you wholeheartedly here. Look, I'm a little bit lost as to what this Rek'Sai is doing because he's kind of this halfway point of this aggro list, which kind of Rek'Sai alludes itself to. But then he has a lot of control tools in these hidden blades, these vengeances that he's been putting down. And yes, he is going to be able to drop down, a couple more units. Um, but I mean, he's got to find something a little bit quicker here because right now it just feels like this Draven is really starting to take over this game. There's only 2 cards in both of these players' hands, and both players have 2 longswords on the battlefield. But when it stands pound for pound, I feel like the Draven just has more tools at his disposal. And look, both of these players are also on the same amount of runes, and Draven's supposed to be all about card advantage. And right now, it just feels like Rek'Sai has been running amok this whole game, and forcing this Draven to really fight or flight his whole way through this game and has managed to finally find some footing. But there is an Immortal Phoenix that is a 5 might unit, on attack. So he's got to find something quick here just to be able to stave off the aggression that this Rek'Sai is putting out. So we'll have to see how it's navigated. There is 7 runes available. Both battlefields are controlled. He is going to concede one of them right now. And yeah,
And
we'll have to
what we
see
are
how this
seeing,
Draven manages to navigate the rest of this game.
what we seeing in the running out of gas department of the Rek'Sai here, as we are going to label it for now, it is a bit reminiscent of the flaws we saw with the earlier Draven decks as Draven Darius decks as well, right? The baited hook variants that do like to spin the wheel of baited hookicality to see what they can pick up and where they can get away with not playing as many draw sources because they have this alternative way to secure themselves units and to see a lot of their deck. And I mean, just compare the two. We already have 18 cards left in deck for Rek'Sai. That is bananas. I think we can safely say here. But it is, we need that little, the sparks are there. We just need a major ignition. And when you're looking for major ignitions, Soaring Scout is not going to do it. And I have my doubts about Immortal Phoenix. However, once it is on the board, it is a pain in the behind to get from, especially when there is a second Phoenix hiding in the bin and there is a 1 Might Treasure Hunter just chilling on the other battlefield.
Oh man, what a devastating piercing light here. Look, the Draven's piercing light was able to put him back into this game, but it looks like the responsive piercing light from this Rek'Sai is just going to bring him right back out of it here. He's got to find himself a Draven to get through this.
He's getting the Phoenix. He's
and
getting
the
the
fact
Phoenix
that
back
this
to the
Immortal Phoenix is going to come back, going to go right onto the battlefield, makes it so that the Spheres Forerunner has to get over both of these Phoenixes, and now these longswords can be equipped after the fact as well, and it's going to be a very difficult situation to overcome. because again, he's got to conquer both of these battlefields. He's got 2 cards in hand, and he has to find a Darius.
Yeah, however, you are putting yourself out quite exposed, and the energy reserves of this Draven are looking quite healthy. We'll be moving up to 8 energy, and it is Rek'Sai a little bit putting it all out on the table. Only 2 cards left that could, get themselves a single hidden blade. That could be an absolute game changer. Do not understand me the wrong way. However, every time I see a player that is fully invested into holding the line, Riftbound favors the aggressor, period. That is just the way the game is played. And when you're playing Draven, you have a plethora of access to. Oh, that is devastating. That is devastating because I was going to say you have so much access to accelerated units or ways to ready units and get them into the fray on time. However, when your only unit remaining is already being dealt with, your options are thinning. However, what we were saying before, putting it all out onto the table, no tricks up the sleeves whatsoever, that is definitely the case. And do not forget that this Draven is sitting on that scary 6 victory points.
Yeah, well, the Rek'Sai is already at 7 points here. He's trying to get the hold. There's no more runes available, no hidden cards available either, and there are 2 longswords, which means that these mechs have to go in and crash themselves in just to try and find a way in, find something here, because if there's not exactly a Draven plus something to play,
Oh,
yeah, don't know
this is looking scary.
Yeah.
It really feels like they're mounting up a hardened attack. And, you still have access to fight or flight as well. There we go.
Oh
Assault
my goodness, the
Light
Blood
Slinger can
Rush
be
just going to be able to get him right out of that situation. And now there's nothing left for this Rek'Sai player to do here. Exactly 7 from the longswords, plus an additional 4, puts him at 11. And I just don't see how you're supposed to be able to get yourself out of this with no runes available.
It's an onslaught. It's an onslaught. And even though they got to deal with a whole lot of the bullets that Draven had in the chamber, the last one gets the job done.
It spread out the board a little bit too much and allowed the Draven to send in that mech to get his point, get him to 7 points, and then send in the other mech for that finishing touch, which is unfortunate because, yeah, I mean, how do you get around that there? The 10 versus the 11 really kind of put that seal on, put the, what's the word I'm looking for? Put the seal on the letter?
Safe to say that Rek'Sai was putting up this pseudo-controlled tempo match where you're really trying to oppress your opponent and deny them to get a proper foothold in the game. The moment Draven did get multiple bodies out and there were just too many threats or too many sources of units to address for the Rek'Sai, it started to become tricky. Losing out the Rek'Sai halfway through the match was a rather bit unfortunate. I think he really would have preferred to see himself go on to be a more fortunate run out here. Ooh, that is interesting, is it not?
So
this
turn
Rek'Sai
1, this
decided to
Rek'Sai is
go-
going to come down here.
Did
And now
this-
turn 2, the
this-
Rek'Sai comes right back.
Did I just miss him paying the power for the seal, or did this Rek'Sai go second?
The Rek'Sai went first, but there's an obelisk of power.
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
Yep.
Keeping me sharp. Thank you, Sasuke.
Yes, sir.
I was like, man, what? On odds? My brain, it hurts. But is getting himself the first conquer trigger. Will be allowed to play the Falling Star. And, well, he might not have the Kai'Sa, but a Seal of Rage gets the job done all the same. And dealing with an early game Draven, that might be the showstopper he was looking for.
While he is not set, I I mean, that Falling Star did a lot of damage here. The Draven's definitely trying to play that Obelisk power to go for these turn 1 Dravens, but that Falling Star is just the perfect answer to him. And because of this, he's, excuse me, he's got to find himself another way to get back into this game. Hopefully, he'll drop himself a couple of 2-drops and maybe a Trevarian Hopeful as well. And then that way, he'll be able to fight on this next turn. But instead, it's just going to be a Kai'Sa into this Rek'Sai, and we'll have to see if he has a response. And it looks like he does
Ooh.
in this Hidden Blade. And so, yeah, I mean, 2 points going to be collected here. This Rek'Sai is just going to go right back to base and just kind of reset for next turn. And yeah, I mean, Draven's still struggling to find a foothold.
Even though, once again, like things, we are putting a lot of pressure onto the Draven. True. However, do we have the answers to prolong this pressure, right? Because the bodies are mounting on the Draven's side of the battlefield. And I feel like unless we get a good few more Falling Stars, a few more Light Slingers, we might be struggling to address these more horde type tactics that Draven can bring into the game. And when you are seeing Cold Week, then I feel as a Draven, your ears are perking up and you are sideboarding against, a more go wide strategy that a Draven can sub into. Now, it is just very important. I would just love to see another seal come out here for Rek'Sai, just to support all these aggressive cards that they're putting out on the battlefield. However, they are not seeing as many cards as we saw in the previous match, just stuck on 30, and Draven can keep up in this battle of information.
So the Piercing Light is going to resolve, and then the salvage will come after the fact. So damage will still be marked, and both of these players will get shot here. Yep. And then also, I believe Plus mentioned this, but the Rek'Sai player should actually be at 3 points. So a little bit surprised that he hasn't noticed that effect yet. Either way, though, the salvage is going to come down and be able to draw him an additional card, gets rid of that longsword for the later stages of this game. And again, this Draven player still needs to find his foothold. Look, this call shot's going to help him a lot. He's going to be able to look at 4 cards, pick 2 of them. But again, these players are struggling, or this Draven player rather, is struggling to find his foothold here. He is kind of at this point starting to really take advantage of the fact that he has just significantly more runes available. And so because of this Ferris Forerunner is going to come down. And again, this Rek'Sai is supposed to be at 3 points. Did not utilize that fact and just get to continue to play it slow here. Understands that he has plenty of room to work with.
Here's the thing. I think where this game is very different from the one we've seen before. The economy right now that Rek'Sai is working with, the options they have at their disposal, they have a lot more room to work with. And even if you do not, you haven't seen as many cards as you have in the first game, the fact that the threats feel a lot more manageable currently, and it is up to the Draven to find the answers, feels like a lot more comfort for the Rek'Sai. However, a Draven with 7 cards in their hand and who will be waking up with 9 energy is nothing to sneeze at. So definitely maybe on his hind leg, but not out for the count just yet. And we've seen this happen before, where the Draven manages to find its footing, dust themselves off, and come out swinging.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have to see if this Rek'Sai can maintain this lead. I felt like the Rek'Sai player in game number 1 was just inches away from closing out the game, but I think that culling the weak, spreading out the units might have been a mistake, and really that death knell that kind of enabled that Draven to steal the win, even though he really shouldn't have. And so because of that, hopefully the Rek'Sai player kind of recognizes that fact, navigates it a little bit differently here, and we'll have to see if that is a fight or flight that was hidden, and that will allow the Draven to draw an additional card. But Rek'Sai, I just don't see right now having a bad, like, he's just not in a bad spot. Obviously, can't fight through that fight or flight right now. Needs to find a different angle of attack to be able to do so. Hopefully, something like a Hidden Blade will be able to get rid of it, or even a Cold a Week right now. might be the better option. And yeah, so Seal of Rage is going to come down, but only 3 cards in hand. How do you get yourself through this, final
But
punching
like we
point? And
said
that falling
before,
star might be the first start.
the cards in hand are not that big an issue for a Rek'Sai that is allowed to conquer these battlefields one after the other. You get to see a lot of cards. You get to put down a whole lot more units, despite maybe not having all those cards ready in hand. Now, I think that the foundation that they are building for themselves is becoming more sturdy. There are backup plans ready to make this not just jab, 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 but to really land that 1, 2, 3 knockout punch that is slowly becoming more of a reality. Now, getting his own Ferris Forerunner back to safety will be pleasant. However, look at what it is costing him. Currently, suddenly, we are no longer looking at a Draven that has resources in abundance. We do see him a little bit more resource tied, tongue tied, and looking for answers, but he can't seem to form the words.
Yeah, look, this is one of those difficult situations to be in here if you are this Draven player. At this point, he is 4 points behind. This Rek'Sai has just been running amok this whole game. A gold token is going to get generated, and finally, this Draven is going to be able to draw off of this Ferris Forerunner, crashing in into the Sanctum. So he is going to be able to win this combat. He is going to be able to look at the top 2 cards and see whether or not he wants to hold on to them. But he still has to figure out how he's supposed to get past a 4-point deficit with the fact that this Rek'Sai isn't out of cards in hand either, and he's going to be ahead on runes.
Yeah, ahead on runes, and these double seals are putting in work. See how they are laying there exhausted almost every single turn. And yeah, it is nice to get rid of the Phoenix. However, they are usually not gone for that long. However, on the other side, the only unit they can, send to the grave is the Ferris Forerunner. So that is a little bit more of a tricksy situation. But you can also just, pay the face value of the Phoenix. It's definitely not a bad card to put out if you have the time. And that is definitely a way to do it. And that means you can get back even more Phoenixes now, can't you?
Absolutely. So this cold week is going to come down here. Just reset these
Yeah,
Phoenixes.
for those
He
for
is
those being
able
confused,
to.
for
Go
those
ahead.
being confused, he did sacrifice the Phoenix and then just brought it back with the Seal of Rage as well.
Yep.
I assume, because there was no sacrifice trigger through yet.
Yep.
So sorry to interrupt. Please take it away, Sasuke.
Yeah, so look, this Draven player is going to be able to capture both of these battlefields on this turn if he so chooses. That is going to almost completely shore up the point deficit that was built up here. But he is afraid of what is on this counter attack here through these double Phoenixes. These are both 5-mine units on the assault. And again, this Rek'Sai's got a ton of runes available. And if he gets one of these captures, he's going to be able to activate the legend yet again, and it's just been getting him so much value throughout this game here. Look, 23 cards remain in his deck. It looks like the Draven's almost even, but yes, there's only 2 cards in the Rek'Sai player's hand. That said, again, this legend has just been putting in so much work, and the fact that this Candlelit Sanctum also gets to come down and let him look at an additional set of cards, it just makes it so much more difficult to be able to deal with everything that this Rek'Sai's putting out.
Yeah, I think the Rek'Sai is looking good here, right? But if we take a moment to step back and look at the bigger picture, have we if we look at the battlefields that you can field to sway momentum in your favor, this feels like the perfect battlefield for Rek'Sai, and having to invest that on the game where you are on the play, that is, I feel like if you do not win that one, then you never had a chance at all. And if you are winning that one, it feels almost, well, yeah, of course you're supposed to win that one. Look at the investment you've made from your battlefield economy, right? So I am wondering, and we are still far from a deciding victory for Rek'Sai here. I'm I'm the first to admit that. However, if they do drag out the win, what amount of powder have they left in the keg for that deciding game 3? If they can bring it so far, because when the Kaisers are coming out, those hands start to fill up in size rather quickly.
Yeah, I mean, 3 longswords have been developed here from this Draven, and it's really been putting a hamper on everything that this Rek'Sai is trying to do. And Rek'Sai has yet to find a longsword of his own here. 4 runes are going to be exhausted, as well as, oh wow, this piercing light is going to be able to do a ton of damage here and just completely clear out this other battlefield.
That is
Man,
efficiency.
piercing light has just been, for me, it's been the deciding factor for both of these games. And that piercing light on the Draven side allowed him to get back into this game, and it looks like this piercing light's going to take him right back out of it.
Yeah, and look at the threats laying underneath as well, right? As we do see a Spinning Axe come out to keep this Kai'Sa in the game. However, that Kai'Sa is limping, and a Phoenix might just want to roll over that without ado. That is another one going the way of Rek'Sai. And even though, yeah, you're giving over a hold, the fact that you get to top up on those cards, you get a play from the Forge of the Future coming out, it is just a situation where you have the margin now to work with. You can withstand a minor blow like this because you have accrued yourself such a decisive lead in the early game and managed to hold on to it as we move on to the mid and late game.
Void Rush is going to come right down as well, and oh no, not enough in the gas tank there. So unfortunate for him. He's just going to send them both to the bottom. Oh no, it looks like he draws the Darius. I need to read Void Rush yet again, because that is just such a new card.
You do draw it. You do draw it.
Okay.
You definitely draw it. It's kind of what hurt him in the previous game, where he was forced to draw the Phoenix as well, right? Instead of having a quick little exit there to the bin. Now, equaling up the score just for the moment, however, I think you're feeling pretty comfortable right now as the Rek'Sai, because you are sitting on that lethal 6 victory points, and currently the resistance that is sitting on these battlefields, I would call it minor. All right, it's being beefed up a little bit, but I mean, we're just one Lightslinger away from total devastation.
You're absolutely right about that, especially with the fact that we knew that he drew this Darius off of the top here. So the Darius is going to be able to trigger, the Candlelit Sanctum is going to be able to trigger, the Rek'Sai is going to be able to trigger. So he's going to be able to look at 4 more cards here. He's already tied to cards in hand of Vengeance.
Oh, there it is.
A Piercing Light going to be revealed off the top here. So Piercing Light going to be able to close out this game, get rid of both of these Trifarian hopefuls, and now that Darius is going to be able to come down, clean up the game, and bring us to this game 3.
So anyway, GanZtrax just started blasting, and they will be blowing past the Draven onto victory, onto those sweet, sweet 8-8 victory points. Now, with the match fully equalized once more, we do get to move on to game number 3, and it all boils down to a grand climax to see who gets to move on to the upper bracket finals and who will have to duke it out and fight for their tournament life in the lower bracket. The final game of the series. Who moves on and who gets to fight for life in the bottom bracket? Let's get underway. Well, there you have it. Arena's Greatest already coming down, making sure that that first point will be in the pocket for both of them. Now, I think as Draven, you are not too sad to see a development like this, similar to the positions that you can procure yourself into these battlefields. Now, I think we have been losing Sasuke. He will be back momentarily. As
Yeah,
we
I don't know how long I've been out for. My
Now
button
you're
got
back, man.
clicked somehow.
Good to have you
Yep,
back. How
yep,
you been?
yep. Yeah, a little bit guffawed here as to why he decided to go for the arena's greatest on the draw. But thankfully for himself, that means that
Well,
the Draven does
he
miss his initial
he didn't have
two
a lot of
drop.
choice there, did he? He didn't have a
Yeah,
lot of
well,
choice in game 3.
he could have played the arena's greatest last time, and I would have expected that. But instead, it is going to be here on the draw, just being able to close out that game just that little bit quicker, shorten out these time frames. And while Targon's Peak is going to be able to allow this Draven a lot more space in terms of rune availability, we have to assume that the Rek'Sai doesn't want to go towards there. Uh, and I'm wrong. He says, look, I'm going to exhaust all of my runes this turn. I don't really care what's going on, so he's going to play this Cold Week, going to get rid of his own Rek'Sai, just to be able to get rid of this Draven, deny that draw for that little bit longer, and then eventually, on this following turn, be able to ready 2 more runes and go right back to the drawing board.
And this is what we were talking about, maintaining that pressure throughout the game, not allowing the Draven to get a foothold in this game, make sure they never are allowed to get comfortable. It is just not in the cards for them. And I think by making sure that they cannot draw, or they are never too comfortable trying to get into this game and putting more and more pressure onto their resources just to keep up in tempo, you really are making the options for this Draven so limited. And when a Kaisa is finding an early grave just for free, just at the cost of a singular rune on Rek'Sai's side, you are so content running out your game like this. However, in contrast to game number 2, we are not seeing these seals just yet, and you can see the damage that it is doing to the economy of Rek'Sai. And if they don't get on top of that rather quickly, they might be sitting on blisters that they are too uncomfortable to bear.
Yeah. Oh man, that has got to be the straw that broke the camel's back there. That Cold Week onto that Kaisa. I feel like if this Rek'Sai is able to close out this game, which right now it truly feels like he will be able to do so.
Oh, it's Sasuke.
It's
It's
off
a
of the
little
back of losing
early
this
for
Kaisa
that.
that early. Look, I don't think you understand how devastating that Kaisa was, because look at the cards right now on both of these players' sides. The Rek'Sai's at 6 cards in hand, and this Draven's already down to 3. He had to blow his load super hard, and now a Vengeance is going to come right back down, and everything that this Draven is playing is just getting stripped away here. The Longsword's the only card that remains on top of the fact, and look, this Rek'Sai is in full control right now.
I mean, after that blow, it's definitely a sticky situation to be in, especially when they do manage to stick the Seal of Rage here. A minor investment allows them to regain their initial tempo. And once the ball gets rolling for Rek'Sai, and they do manage to find some hits, and they do find a way back into their playstyle like this, I think that the battlefield that Draven has been bringing to the table, the Targon's Peak here, is playing out wonderfully, because right now Rek'Sai has plenty of cards to work with to take full advantage of it, and they are doing so to great effect. And the answers coming out for Draven, they are on the slower side. They are really struggling to keep up with this murderous tempo set by Rek'Sai, set by GanZtrax, who is on a tear right now. Now, as we are seeing the situation getting more dire and dire, a double falling star, I think it really
Oh
should
my
be
goodness.
commended how much of an investment this Rek'Sai is comfortable making just to prevent this Draven from setting foot into this game. It is really becoming more difficult to find a foothold, to start drawing cards off of that hero ability. And now we are seeing it finally come through. But how much of a deficit can they come back from, as GanZtrax is inching closer ever more towards that ever releasing 8 victory points?
Yeah. Now, I know a lot of players would have been like, why not just hold on to that Targon's Peak for the time being? But here's the answer. Or the Rek'Sai Legend only works on Conquer, so he just wants to be able to conquer as much as possible here. Is going to be able to do so onto this Targon's Peak if he decides that that's how he wants to go about this turn. He might have a couple of tricks like what Blood Rush here, just to get over that Darius. But I have to assume he's just going to play it patiently here and go for this Targon's Peak, and that is going to be the case. He's at 4 cards in hand, 6 runes available, and a Darius off the top. Oh my goodness, things just keep going from worse to worser to the worstest thing you could possibly imagine for this Draven player.
Yeah, I think GanZtrax might be coming from the UK because he has that Worcestershire sauce, huh? Making things an ever deeper pool of despair for Draven. However, I do have to shout out Terror King in chat, calling out that this Draven is never fully out of the match, and do not count him out. The moment you are starting to count him out, that is when he strikes back hardest. And you can only be surprised by an upset if the odds look dire. And man, I'm not sure about you, but Eve, I can't help myself root for the underdog. So we are not out of the woods just yet as Rek'Sai. We got to keep our head in the game. However, I'm not sure how many more blows this Draven deck can withstand. I mean, just take a look at the bin here. Kai'Sa in the bin, 2 Dariuses in the bin, Draven himself in the bin. We really are running out of proper options.
I really feel like it just comes down to that turn 2 Cold a week that just happened. This Kai'Sa is going to be able to, stand her ground a little bit. There's 5 cards in hand for Draven, as well as a couple of other options available. So the salvage is going to come down, allow this Rek'Sai to draw an additional card, get rid of this longsword as well, and hopefully this Rek'Sai can find something right now, just to be able to get that conquer off. And it looks like it's not going to be able to do so. So now, 7 points. This Draven is clawing his way back into this game. And just like you had mentioned, this Draven's never fully out. However, we say this, there's still 3 cards on the bench available for this Rek'Sai player to be able to close out this game here on the following turn. We'll have to see if he finds a way back into this. But yeah, you have to reinforce as much as you can here.
But they are spread thin. They are definitely spread out thin. They still have energy to, support whichever battlefield will be put under pressure. However, you have to keep in mind that by spreading out your resources, you are leaving yourself just that tad bit more vulnerable. And it is up to your opponent to find the perfect solution to this little puzzle that they're setting up. And I mean, a piercing light. When GanZtrax most needed it, he found the piercing light. Can only play it twice though, because of a lack of fury power. And the fact that a Spilling Blade will be bailing them out once again might be the game deciding play. It is coming down to the absolute wire. And with no more fury runes at their disposal, Rek'Sai is looking for outs, of which the number might be slimming by the minute.
This is definitely a difficult situation to be in here if you are this Rek'Sai player. It felt like just a moment ago you had some opportunities, but because there was 5 runes available on that prior turn and a 4-might unit as well as a longsword, it just felt very difficult to get around. And now he has to send in this Immortal Phoenix to try and fight this battlefield. But if there's a fight or flight in the hand of the Draven, that will just be the game. Only 4 runes available remaining. We'll have to see if there is a way around it here. Rebuke going to be the answer here, and I feel like that might just be the death knell here, and it looks like that is going to be the case. Very well navigated from this Draven player. It felt like it was lights out a couple of times in this game. It felt like there was lights out at that Cold Week. It felt like it was lights out at that double Falling Star, but this Draven player just kept pushing forward and is able to get game number 3 here. I mean, what incredible series. Both of these players played exceptionally well, and congratulations to the Draven's player.
Most definitely. I think major shout out to GanZtrax here, who put up such a big fight to make sure that this Draven was not getting it for free. However, on the other side of the medal, J-Chan once again clutching out a victory when the odds seem stacked against him. And that really goes to show that you are not out until that final victory point has ticked over to 8.